When did picking up the phone and talking to our clients and colleagues become such a foreign concept? In this podcast, we discuss why connecting with our clients or coworkers via phone, Zoom, or a Teams call might be better than sending an email. Let's begin the podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Janice Kleins, Marketing Manager for AOE, and today we are talking about the phone. So with me, I have AOE President Kimberly Kaler, and she recently wrote a blog, The Power of Picking Up the Phone in Assigning Projects. She also wrote a blog in 2020 called Have You Tried Calling? So we're basically discussing today, when did picking up the phone and talking to our clients and colleagues become such a foreign concept? Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you for having me, Janice. I'm excited to talk about this topic.
Oh, good. So my first question, in 2020, like I mentioned earlier, you wrote a blog called Have You Tried Calling? Tell our audience why you wrote this blog.
Well, I wrote the blog because I was having conversations with our team members, and I'd get responses like, "Well, I've emailed and I haven't heard back," or "I've sent another email," or "I'm waiting on this," or "I'm waiting on that." And I found myself wondering, have we actually talked to our clients recently? Have we actually been on the phone? Not that we were avoiding our clients in any way, but everybody's gotten busy. And at that time, everybody had gotten so reliant on email in terms of not only communication, but status updates and even project scoping. And I know there's such power of us actually having conversations to get updates. We find out so much more. We have a better understanding of what's going on in their world. But we had just gotten out of this habit. We just gotten into this very structured habit, very organized habit of communicating with our clients via email. And we know that that was their preference. But I felt like we were missing some things.
Okay. So with email being so much easier, like, why is picking up the phone better?
Well, picking up the phone is better just so that we can have that communication once again. And let me stress that, picking up the phone, when I define phone, in some cases that may be a Teams call or a Zoom's call. Obviously, outside of your organization, you can't necessarily, have a Teams call or call somebody. But actually having a conversation is really, really key. We've gotten into this habit of, yes, email is very efficient, but as we know, there's pitfalls with email too. We're hurried in our nature. Maybe our client, or I know I'm guilty of this, of only answering half of the questions in the email and hitting send. And someone has to then do the whole ping pong back and forth of, thank you, but did you respond to this part of it? And we're also missing just the conversation. So if a client is being unresponsive or slow to respond on something, what else is going on in their world? Do they have another big project? Do they have another big challenge right now? Is there some other way that we can help them? Is there a way that maybe we need to adjust what we're asking or what we're doing? And those conversations are still best had by actually face to face, meaning face to face being on the phone. So we're actually having those unscripted conversations. I'm reminded by my first job out of college, I worked for an engineering firm in their marketing department. And the president of the company, when the engineers would get slow and we wouldn't have much work, he would actually have the engineers get in the car, get on a plane, and go visit our clients and walk up and down the halls. And it always resulted in bringing back work because, even if it wasn't related to a certain project, they'd say, "Oh, hey, Joe, nice to see you. Since you're here, by the way, any thoughts on this?" So it does result in that communication and understanding what's going on in their world.
Okay. So with our over reliance on email, how does that translate to like coworkers? I mean, you discussed why it's good for clients, but how does that work for coworkers as well? I mean, especially for AOE, we all work from home or remotely. So talk to our audience about that.
So I just occurred to me a couple of weeks ago as I was working with our team members related to project updates and even, handing off work. And we're very efficient, I think, as a team in terms of how we do things. We're pretty good about scoping things via email. We use the Basecamp project tool, which is really wonderful for project management. But as we know, not everything can actually be explained in an email. And we have a lot of newer team members that are newer to our organization. And of course, maybe some of our senior team members may make assumptions with regards to how somebody approaches something or scopes something, or don't know the nuances of a client. And that is best done with a project handoff and actually picking up the phone. And again, by phone, that may mean actually scheduling a Zoom call or scheduling a Teams call, but where you can have that two-way interaction instead of that email ping pong or even the Basecamp ping pong where you hand off things and then they come back with questions. But just asking questions and answering questions doesn't always get to the full heart of the matter and truly understanding what the vision and mission of the project would be. And we take a lot of pride in making sure that what we are doing for our clients really hits their vision and their mission and their key audiences and key messages. So just caused me to pause, and because I know I'm guilty of it too, of just throwing off directions via email where in quotes, phone call may actually be a good idea sometimes.
No, I agree. I mean, if you call somebody, you can, because in your blog you have like why call, it can solve clarification, the tone. Talk to us a little bit about that. Like, why is that important? I mean, things that something in an email might get misconstrued versus if you called them, it translates totally different.
Well, I think maybe in some cases it actually is good to do both. So one of the things that occurs to me is maybe setting up the project via email or in Basecamp where you have all the information laid out. So the person you're handing it off to has a chance to review it. And then scheduling a short phone call where you can go over everything, give them a chance to review it first, what questions they have, and then spend some time as the person handing off the work or handing off the project, helping them understand, again, what the vision for the project is. Otherwise, it becomes a task. It becomes a list of activities and a task, and not something that we are truly connected to in terms
I
of what
agree.
we're trying to accomplish.
Plus, you've got different learners, so
Totally.
someone may
Yeah.
not understand it just by reading it. They might need it verbally, told to them. Um,
That's a really good
so
point, Janice. And that's why I was saying even one of the feedback many of our team members have given me is that they need to see things or they need to think about things for a little bit before their go. So
right.
something I've tried to be a little bit more deliberate about in terms of giving people the time to review it. But you're exactly right. Learning styles fit into this too. Especially our team members with wonder and invention. I don't give them time for wonder of invention if I just hand them the task and tell them to go.
Correct. Yeah. And for those that are listening that may not know what Kimberly is talking about, wonder and invention, that's the Working Genius model that we also have, which is on our website. You can find that on there. My next question is for why calling. What about age? Like as far as somebody that's maybe a younger demographic, and we have some younger demographics on our team who might not want to talk on the phone or schedule a Zoom call and have their cameras on. Can you talk to our audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm probably going to sound like an old fuddy-duddy here at this point. Age 51, I've hit that point. But I do think it's really important just for that human connection. And I think sometimes we label our young people that they don't want to talk on the phone, because we have this perception that they don't, and maybe they don't even socially or, in other aspects of their life. But we know that that connection is really, really key. But they may need some guidance in terms of what that looks like and what those conversations are like, especially if they are actually interacting with a client, helping them scope what that would look like would be key.
Okay, so my last question is, does this work for AOE? What give our audience some examples of things that AOE does, being that we work remotely, so that we are having that FaceTime, seeing each other, talking on the phone. Tell our audience what AOE does.
So it's important to recognize that AOE's actually been a virtual company since its founding in 2001. We actually had office space for a while, and most of us just found better work-life balance working in a remote environment. So we got good at being virtual before the pandemic, if you will. I think we've gotten a lot better at it. But you know, with that, we have to be very deliberate in what we do. So the more opportunity that we can have to have interactions, to have, again, when I say phone call, it's a Zoom call, a Teams call. Maybe you actually are picking up your cell phone and having an actual phone call with somebody. But the more we can have those interactions related to projects is key, because it also leads to other things, which I think is really important. It's other ideas. That's where that true collaboration and that sharing happens. And one thing that we haven't touched on, Janice, and it just occurred to me is, and I think it's something I touched on in the blog, is that there seems to be a concern, because we're so meeting heavy, that, oh dear, that's going to require another meeting. So if I can just hand it off via email, great. Kimberly now wants me to have a meeting about it. That's another meeting. All I have is meetings. So get rid of this perception that it has to be a half an hour meeting or an hour-long meeting. Can you do a quick handoff? If you set something up for somebody and gave them time to review it, can you do a 10-minute or a 15-minute handoff? I think we need to get really good at that. So you still have that interaction, but it doesn't have to be this all-consuming day full of meetings, if you will. So I'd love your perspectives on that, because I know you've got a lot of meetings on your calendar too.
Yeah. No, I agree. Sometimes it's easier just to get on a call and hash out the details, especially if there's questions, versus the ping pong of the emails back and forth. So, well, these are great blogs. Both of them are. They're still relevant, even the one from 2020. I appreciate you sitting down and talking with us about this. If you want to read Kimberly's blogs, you can find them on the website, aoeteam.com, under the blog section. And like I said, we touched on the Working Genius, which is under our services categories on our website. Take a look at that. Helps you understand your employees better. So thanks so much for joining us, Kimberly. We appreciate you talking with us.
Thanks, Janice.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope this session provides value, and we hope you will join us for our next podcast.